welcome to English Study Point. Today in this video lecture I am going to continue with general prologue. A good man was there of religion. So introduces the character as a morally sound and virtuous man who belongs to the clergy and was a poor person of a town. Specifies his poor social and economic status, indicating he is a simple, humble person living in a town. But rich he was of holy thought and work. Contrasts his material poverty with his wealth in spiritual qualities and good deeds, emphasizing his devotion to his faith. He was also a learned man, a clerk. Indicates that he is educated and scholarly, someone who understands and teaches religious texts, that Christ's gospel trivially world preach. Affirms his commitment to preaching the gospel of Christ sincerely and authentically. His parishioners devoutly world he take. So highlights his dedication to instructing his parishioners in their faith with devotion. Benign he was and wonder diligent. Describes him as kind hearted and diligent in his work as a pastor, and in adversity full patient, suggesting that he endures hardships with patience, showcasing his resilience, and which he was ye braved other oft sithies. So indicates that his character and virtues have been tested and proved on numerous occasions, reinforcing his integrity. Full Luth were hein to Curson for his deeds. So he is reluctant to curse anyone in return for their deeds, which were typically expected from parishioners, signifying his humility, but rather world he even out of doubt. So clarifies that he would prefer to give rather than take, reflecting his selflessness unto his poor parishioners about. So indicates that he shares with those who are less fortunate in his community, showing compassion and solidarity. Of his offering and eke of his substance refers to him sharing his offerings and personal means substance with those in need around him. He could in little time have sufficience, suggests that he is content with little, emphasizing his modest lifestyle and lack of material desires. Wide was his parish and houses were asunder. Describes the vastness of his parish with dwellings spread far apart, indicating the challenges he faces. But he nay laugh not for rain nay thunder. So he does not abandon his duties due to bad weather, exhibiting his commitment and devotion to his parishioners in sickness nor in mischief to visit. Highlights his resolve to visit his parishioners in sickness or trouble, demonstrating his pastoral care. The fairest in his parish much and life, emphasizes that he attends to everyone regardless of their status or distance from him, showing his inclusivity. Upon his feet and in his hand a staff. So here we see that Chaucer concludes with a vivid image of him traveling on foot with a staff, symbolizing his humility and readiness to serve. This noble ensemble to his sheep yef. The parson is described as noble for providing a good example to his parishioners, referred to metaphorically as sheep. This suggests he leads by example, an important quality in a spiritual leader. That first he wrote and afterward he taught. So he practiced what he preached. He demonstrated virtues through his actions before teaching them to others, emphasizing the integrity of his character. Out of the gospel he the words got. So his teachings are derived from the gospel, indicating that they are grounded in Christian doctrine. This shows his commitment to authentic scriptural teaching, and this figure if he added eke thereto. So he adds a metaphor or figure to of speech to showcase that there is a quality of enhancing the way he communicates his message and making it more relatable. That if gold rusts, what shall um, iron do? So the rhetorical question addresses the idea that if something as valuable as gold can tarnish the iron, then iron, representing something of lesser value, will surely rust. So it implies that if those in higher position like priests fail in their duties, those beneath them, the lay people, will also falter. For if a present be foul on whom we trust. So, this line suggests the ethical responsibility of the priest. If a priest is morally corrupt, foul, the congregation who rely on him will suffer spiritually. No wonder is a lewd man to rust. So, this reflects the lack of surprise when an uneducated or common person, lewd man, also fails to uphold moral standards if their spiritual leaders are corrupt. And shame it is if a priest take keep. So it is shameful for a priest to neglect his duties, suggesting that they should serve and take care of their responsibilities without distraction. A shitten shepherd and a clean ship. So here we see that Chaucer contrasts a dirty shepherd, the priest, with clean ship, the parishioners, illustrating the incongruity and dishonor with when a shepherd, spiritual guide, is unworthy of his flock. Well ought a priest ensample for to give. So, a priest should provide an exemplary model reinforcing the concept that leaders should lead by example, particularly in moral and spiritual matters. By his cleans, how that his sheep should live. So he should demonstrate cleanliness, moral purity to show his congregation how they should live, reinforcing the idea of moral responsibility. He set not his benefits too higher. So he does not sell his position for profit, suggesting that he is genuine in his vocation and not motivated by greed, and lead his ship encumbered bread in the mire. So he would not abandon his flock to struggle in mire, portraying the importance of spiritual care and responsibility, and ran to London unto St. Paul's. So here we see a contrast. While other priests might flee to the city, London, for personal gain or recognition, the parson remains dedicated to his parish, to second him a chanter for souls. So others seeks a chantry, a prayer for souls, for self-interest or fame, highlighting the material pursuits of some clergy, or with a breathhead to be withhold. So this suggests a possible desire to be associated with a brotherhood or community for status, again showcasing the lack of genuine devotion from some priests, but dwelt at home and kept well his world. So, in contrast, the parson chooses to remain home, demonstrating his commitment to his parishioners and ensuring their spiritual well being, so that the wolf name made it not miscure. The wolf symbolizes threats to the flock such as sin or corruption. His presence keeps them safe from these dangers. He was a shepherd and not a mercenary. So finally, he is categorized as a true shepherd, not a mercenary. This highlights his selfless dedication versus those who serve only for financial gain, emphasizing the moral distinction between genuine and opportunistic leaders. Here we see, and though he wholly were and virtuous. So the parson is described as holy and virtuous, indicating his moral integrity and dedication to spiritual life. He was to sinful men not despicious. So he does not scorn sinful people. Instead of looking down on them, he is compassionate towards their weaknesses. Nay, of his speech dangerous, nay, digning. So his speech is neither dangerous nor arrogant, and he communicates gently and humbly, making him approachable. But in his teaching, discreet and benign. So in his teaching, he is discreet, careful, and benign means kind, showing his thoughtful approach to imparting religious lessons, to draw in folk to heaven by fairness. So his goal is to lead people to heaven through fairness and kindness rather than through force or fear. By good example, this was his Bicenes. So he emphasizing setting a good example in his life, demonstrating how to live righteously through his actions. But it were any person obstinate. So if anyone is obstinate means stubborn, he is prepared to address them directly whatsoever of high or low estate. This applies regardless of the person's social status, whether they are of high or low estate. Him would he sin vain sharply for the noise. So he would reproach obstinate individuals sharply, but only as necessary for the noise, implying a strong but fair reprimand. At better priest, I trow that nowhere noon yes. So the narrator asserts that there is no better priest than the parson, confirming his exceptional character. He waited after no pomp and reverence. This means the parson does not seek pomp, showy displays, or reverence. Respect then often comes with a high position. Nay, maketh him a spice conscience. So he does not create an artificial or self-serving moral standard, spice conscience, demonstrating honestly in his spiritual life. But Christ's lure and his apostles 12. So he teaches the doctrine of Christ's lure and the teachings of his 12 apostles, focusing on authentic Christian teaching. He taught, but first he followed it himself. So he teaches these principles but also practices them in his own life, exemplifying true leadership and integrity. With him there was a plowman was his brother. So the plowman is introduced as the brother of the person, establishing a connection between the two and suggesting a shared set of values. That had while led of dung full many a father. So the plowman has transported a great deal of dong, indicating his hard work and the rural agricultural nature of his profession. A true swinker and a good was he. He is described as a true worker and a good man. This emphasizes his reliability, dedication, and integrity. Living in peace and perfect charity. So the plowman lives in peace and perfect charity, highlighting his harmonious life and loving nature towards others. And then we see God love he best with all his whole heart. So his love for God is genuine and complete, portraying him as devout and sincere in his spiritual commitment. All ail times, though him gamed or smote. So he remains faithful at all times, whether in joy or in pain, underscoring his steadfastness in faith. And thin his neighbor right as himself. So he treats his neighbors as he would treat himself, reflecting the principle of loving one's neighbor and caring for the community. He wall thrash and there too dike and delve. So the plowman is involved in various agricultural tasks like threshing, digging, and delving, showing his industriousness and versatility. For Christ's sake, for every poor right. So he works for the sake of Christ and to help the poor, indicating his altruism and selflessness. Without an hire if it lay in his mind. So he helped those in need without expecting payment, as long as he has the ability to do so, highlighting his generosity. His debts paid he full fair and well. So the plowman pays his debts, a portion of his earnings, to support the church fairly and well, demonstrating his commitment to his religious duties, both of his property, swing, and his cattle. So he pays tithes from both his own labor and his possessions, indicating his dedication to community and spirituality. In a tabard, he rode upon a mare. So he rides in a tabard, a short coat on a mare, which reflects his humble status and practicality, emphasizing his authenticity as a working class individual. There was also a reeve and a miller. So the speaker lists the characters present, introducing the reeve and the miller as part of the company traveling to Canterbury. A summoner and a pardoner also. So the summoner, an officer who summons sinners to ecclesiastical court, and the pardoner who sells indulgences are also included, indicating a diverse group with various professions. A municipal and myself there were Nemo. So the municipal means a purchasing agent is introduced along with the narrator, Chaucer himself, indicating the number of travelers is small or the introduction is concise. So the miller was a stout Carl for the knowns. So the miller is described as a stout fellow, Carl, emphasizing his solid physique for the nonce implies he's especially notable or robust. Full big he was of brawn and eke of bones. So the miller is both muscular and sturdy, reinforcing his physical strength and robustness. That proved well for overall there he came. So his strength is evident wherever he goes, suggesting he commands attention and respect due to his imposing presence. At Rosline, he would have always the ram. So the miller is so confident in his abilities that he always wants to win. Have the ram a prize in wrestling, showcasing his competitive nature. He was short shouldered, broad, and a thick near. So describing the miller as short shouldered, short and broad, thick set, thick near. Emphasizes his heavy and robust build, which adds to the intimidating character. There has no door that he knowed have of here. So there was no door he wouldn't break down, suggesting not only his physical strength but also a sense of aggression and lack of restraint. Of break it are draining with his heat. He could break down a door by running into it with his head, which reinforces his brute strength and brawniness. His beard, as any snow or fox, was red. So the miller's beard is as red as a pig or a fox, indicating a wild appearance, suggesting both ferocity and a rugged charm. And there too brood as though it were a spade. So his beard is wide and flat, comparing it to a spade accentuates his rough, coarse image. Upon the corp right of his nose he had. This means that he has a vertebrae located at the tip corp right of his nose, enhancing his unattractive, coarse physical appearance. A wart and a their own stood a tuft of hairs. So the wart has a tuft of hair growing on it, adding to the unrefined and grotesque image of the miller. Read as the bristles of snow, so Aries. Hairies. This means the wart has a tuft of hairies growing on it, adding to the unrefined and grotesque image of the miller. And then we see that reed as the bristles of a sow's Aries. So the hair on the wart is as red as the bristles of a pig's ears, continuing the theme of his pig-like, loathsome appearance. His nostrils black were and wide, so his nostrils are wide and dark, adding to the overall unappealing and rough depiction of his visage. Here we see a sword and a buckler bar he by his side. So he carried a sword and a shield by his side. So the imagery suggests a character who is prepared for combat or conflict, emphasizing a martial or possibly knightly identity. The sword and shield symbolize protection and aggression. His mouth was as a great furnace. So his mouth was as great as a great furnace. The simile indicates that the character has a loud voice or is a boisterous talker, possibly signifying a person who is gregarious or boastful. The reference to a furnace implies heat and intensity, suggesting he may be prone to loud or passionate speech. He was a jangler and goliardes. So he was a prattler and a buffoon. Jangler refers to someone who talks unnecessarily or engages in idle chatter. And Goliardes refers to a roguish or playful person, often considered as a student or wandering minstrel. This character may thus be a witty, perhaps unscrupulous individual associated with frivolity. And that was most of sin and harlotries, and that was mostly of sin and promiscuity. So the narrator implies that the character's behavior are morally questionable, possibly suggesting that he engages in debauchery or sinful acts. This critiques societal norms regarding the type of entertainment or roguery that was popular in their day. Well could he steal in corn and toil in thrice. So he could steal corn and extort thrice. This particular point tell us that character is skilled in theft and manipulation, particularly in farming context, stealing grain, and potentially a con man extorting money. It enhances the portrayal of him as a rogue figure, and yet he had a thumb of gold pardy. So and yet he had a golden thumb indeed. So this expression golden thumb implied that he has a knack for making money or being particularly adept at tasks, perhaps symbolizing both skill and greed. This could also connect to the idea of prosperity gained through dishonest means. At which coat and a blue hood wore he. So he wore a white coat and a blue hood. So the clothing colors imply a specific identity or status. White often signifies purity or simplicity. White blue could denote loyalty or even a link to specific societal roles. And these details might suggest an ironic contrast between appearance and character. A bagpipe well could he blow and sound. So he could blow and sound a bagpipe well. This emphasizes his musical talent, likely a reflection of his character as someone who entertains or frivolously indulges in rivalry. These aspects make him engaging but perhaps also superficial. And therewith all he brought us out of town. So and with that he brought us out of town. This suggests that his music or antics led the group away from their unusual surroundings toward merriment or adventure, indicating his ability to influence others and lead them into indulgent situations. A gentle municipal was there of a temple of which Ekatours might take example. So the speaker introduces a gentle, noble or clever municipal who works for a temple. The municipal is experienced and serves as a good example for buyers, the actors, regarding savvy purchasing and financial management. For to be wise in binge of retail, for whether that he paid or took by tail. So the municipal here we see that municipal is praised for his wisdom in buying food. Retail means food. The word tail refers to a tax or a type of payment, suggesting he is adept in financial dealings regardless of how transactions are handled. Algate he wanted so in his a cat that he was a by fond and in good stat. So the municipal is careful and meticulous in his purchases, weighted meaning observed or considered, always ensuring he is ahead of the game and in good condition. This implies he is both prudent and skilled. Now is that of God a full fair grace. So the narrator reflects on the idea that it's a graceful gift from God that the municipal, despite being uneducated, demonstrates wisdom that rivals that of a learned man. That switch a lewd men's with shall pace the wisdom of an heap of learned men. So this line shows the surprise that an uneducated man's understanding, lewd men means uneducated, might equal or surpass the intelligence of many learned scholars. It poses the question of how such a disparity exists, suggesting a critique of conventional learning. Of mistress hate he more than thrice ten, that Warren of law expert and curious. So the municipal has more than 30 masters, particularly in law. This shows not only the municipal circle of influence but also his capability to navigate complex legal and economic matters, of which there were a dozen in that house, worthy to be stewards of rent and land. So among the learned men serving under him, there were a dozen worthy enough to be stewards of estates and property, suggesting the municipal's authority and ability to outsmart those with formal qualifications of any lord that is in England to make him live by his proper good. So the municipal could manage the resources of any lord in England, showing he could help them live independently and well, managing their assets effectively. In honor deals, but if he would or live as scarcely as him less desire. So the municipal could facilitate a life of honor without debt unless the lord was foolish. It indicates his capability to maintain a high status without financial burden, and able for to help in all a shire, cast that might fall or hape. So the municipal is portrayed as a very capable and helpful individual, able to assist an entire county in any situation that arises, highlighting his problem solving skills and resourcefulness. And yet this municipal set her honor cape. So the line indicates the municipal's cleverness in setting their cap, which means he managed the affairs of those of all these learned men, outsmarting them despite their education. This highlights the theme of practical wisdom versus bookish knowledge. The reeve was a scaldry choleric man. So the reeve is portrayed as slender and thin, suggesting possibly a wiry strength or perhaps an appearance of being frail. Choleric refers to a temperament affected by bile, indicating he may be irritable or quick tempered. His beard was shaved as nigh as ever he can. So his beard is closely shaved, which could imply meticulousness or an emphasis on cleanliness and order, reflecting his nature as overseer. His hair was by his Aries round white shorn. So his hair is cut short and round about his ears, reinforcing his tidy appearance and possibly alluding to a professional or disciplined demeanor typical of someone in authority. His top was docked like a priest by fawn. So his head top is described as being cropped like that of a priest. This comparison suggests both a strictness in appearance and perhaps a similarity to clerical figures who held authority and respect. Full long were his legs and full lean. So the reeve's legs are long and lean, which could symbolize agility or readiness for work. The emphasis on his leanness continues to paint him as a figure of efficiency. While like a staff, there was no calf seen. He is compared to a staff, emphasizing his thinness. There is a lack of visible muscle, no calf, which reinforces the idea of him being a gaunt figure. Well could he keep a garner and a bine. So he is competent in managing a granary and a bin, indicating his skills in overseeing agricultural produce, which is important for a reeve's role. This emphasizes his capability in logistics and management. There was none auditor could on him win. So no auditor could find fault with him, suggesting he was extremely efficient and careful, even cunning. This reveals an aspect of his personality where he is adept at avoiding scrutiny and criticism. Well versed he by the drought and by the rain. So he is knowledgeable about weather conditions affecting farming, indicating that his expertise is rooted in practical experience and understanding of agriculture. The yield of his seed and of his grain. So he understands the yield of his crops, showing a deep knowledge of farming. The reeve's awareness of both drought and rain implies that he is in tune with the cycles of nature affecting his work. His lord's sheep, his neat, his deer. So the reeve oversees all aspects of his lord's livestock, including sheep, wool and cattle, beef or milk, indicating a comprehensive managerial role over various agricultural components: his swine, his horse, his stoor and his poultry. So he is also responsible for managing the pigs, horses, stock, livestock and poultry, showing his extensive role as a farm manager, highlighting the breadth of his responsibilities. Was Huli in this reeve's governing? So everything mentioned is under the reeve's governance, hinting at a level of authority and responsibility that encompass all farm operations, suggesting he is a key figure in the estate's management. And by his covenant yaf that raking. So he provides transparency in accounting and record keeping as per his agreement with his lord, implying trustworthiness and an adherence to duty, since that his lord was 20 years of age. So he has managed this role since his lord was just 20 years old, indicating a long tenure and a deep familiarity with the estate. There could no man bring him in errand, so no one could catch him in debt or mismanagement, underscoring his importance in handling finances and management and further solidifying his reputation as an effective and trustworthy steward. There nas Balif no herd nor Uther hin. So there was no Balif herd nor other servant. This shows the setting indicates that the reeve is a unique figure among local officials, that he knew his sleight and his covin, so that he did not know his cunning and his trickery, characterizing the reeve as clever and shrewd. skilled in manipulation. They were adored of him as of the death. So they were afraid of him as of death. This shows the fear other workers have of him, suggesting his authoritative and possibly unscrupulous nature. His wong was full fair upon an heath. So his dwelling was very fine on a heath, indicating that the reeve lived in a well appointed place, hinting at his wealth. With green trees showed was his place. So with green trees was his place shaded. So the imagery create a picturesque and possibly secluded environment, reinforcing the reeve's status. He could better than his lord purchase. So he could manage better than his lord to procure. So the reeve is more skilled in acquiring wealth than his master, implying a level of independence. Full rich he was stored privily. So full rich he was secretly stored indicates that he possesses a hidden wealth, possibly acquired through dubious means. His lord well could he pleasant subtly. So his lord well could he please subtly. The reeve knows how to flatter and manipulate his lord for personal gain, to yield and lean him of his own good, to give and land him from his own good, highlights the reeve's ability to manage resources and relationships for advantage, and have a thank and yet a coat and hood, and receive thanks and still have a coat and hood, suggests he gains favor while ensuring he is personally taken care of in return. In youth he had learned a good mister. So in youth he had learned a good trade. This hints at his background, having acquired skills in his youth that contribute to his success. He was a well good wright, a carpenter. He was a very good workman, a carpenter, establishing his trade skills which also imply practicality and resourcefulness. This reeve sat upon a full good slot. This means that this reeve sat upon a very good horse, indicates that he is well mounted, a sign of his wealth and status. That was all pomely grey and hight Scott. So that was all dappled grey and was named Scott. So the horse description enhances his status and also suggests a personal connection. A long surcoat of course upon he had. So a long surcoat of course fabric he had, describing his clothing, which signifies his wealth but also reinforces his rustic lifestyle. And by his side he bore a rusty blade. So and by his side he bore a rusty blade. So the rusty sword might imply practicality, suggesting he could defend himself, but many also hint at a neglect of duty. Of Norfolk was this reeve of which I tell. So of Norfolk was this reeve of whom I tell indicates the reeve's geographical and social background. Beside a town meant Clapin Baldwell. So beside a town called Baldwell, giving a specific location adds realism and context to his character. Tucked he was as is afraid about. So beside it means he was tucked in like a friar all around, suggests a somewhat casual or less formal appearance while hinting at a possible lifestyle. And ever he rode the hindrest of our route. So and always he rode at the hindmost of our route. This suggests a role in managing the group or his penchant for being last, which could connote a cautious or observant nature. Now here we see a summoner was there with us in that place. The narrator introduces the summoner, a church official responsible for summoning people or ecclesiastical court that had a fair red cherubine face. The summoner has a bright red face reminiscent of a cherub, suggesting a devilish or deceitful appearance. For so chiefly he was with iron nerve. So he is described as a sorcery, implying he has a sullen or suspicious demeanor with narrow eyes that could connote cunning. As hood he was and lecherous as a spore. So his character is developed, depicting him as a hot-tempered and lustful, akin to a sparrow known for its association with promiscuity, with scaled bronze, blake, and pile bird. This suggests that he has a rugged, unkempt appearance. His black eyebrows resemble scales, and his beard is tangled. Of his visage, children were afraid. His frightening appearance scared children, indicating he is not only physically unattractive but also evokes fear, hinting at his corrupt nature. There was quicksilver, letarge, nay brimstone. So, a list of all chemical substances, quicksilver, litharge, brimstone, suggests that he uses remedies to treat his skin ailments. Borax, cerusse, or nay oil of tartanoon. So, he has no access to other ointments, borax, cerusse, or tartar oil, which could cleanse his skin, emphasizing his similarity to diseases often linked with moral corruption. No ointment then we see no ointment that world cleans and bite. So none of the remedies worked well enough to clean or help him, reinforcing the idea of his solid character and possibly suggesting a deeper moral infection that him might help in of his Wilkie's bite. So his Wilkie's boils or pimples are symptomatic of his physical and moral corruption, nor of the nobles sitting on his cheeks. The presence of knobs on his cheeks reinforces his diseased condition, serving as a metaphor for his lecherous moral state. Well loved he garlic, onions, and eke leeks. So his love for garlic, onions, and leeks paints a picture of someone who is coarse and possibly smells bad, which could be socially undesirable. And for to drink in wine read as blood. So he drinks strong wine red as blood, suggesting excess and perhaps tying his gluttony to his lustfulness. Thin walled he speak and cry as he were wood. So under the influence of alcohol he becomes loud and irrational, further demonstrating his lack of self-control. And when that he well drunken had then the wine, the shows that he becomes more liberated when drunk, implying a duality in his character. Then walled he speak of no word but Latin. So he resorts to speaking Latin only, a language of the educated elite, indicating a performative attitude pretending to be knowledgeable. A few terms had he, two or three. So his limited knowledge of Latin is underscored. He knows a few legal terms but nothing substantial, showcasing his superficiality that he had learned out of some degree. The terms he knows were likely learned from legal documents, not from the true understanding or wisdom. No wonder is he heard it all the day. So the narrator suggests that hearing Latin constantly explained his limited vocabulary, and eke ye known well how they joy. So the comparison between the summoner and a jay bird implies that just as a jay can mimic human speech, so can the summoner parrot Latin without comprehension, can Clippenpot as well as can the Pope. So the jay bird can call out for what a simple name just as easily as the Pope can, showcasing how both know superficial labels without real substance. But whose could in another thing him group? So, if anyone tried to engage him on deeper matters beyond his limited knowledge, they would find him lacking. Thin head, he spent all his philosophy. So, this means he were asked anything substantive, he would reveal his ignorance, suggesting he is a fraud. A question called juris walled he cry. So, the Latin phrase meaning what is the question of law becomes his catchphrase, summarizing his shallow legal knowledge and emphasizing his role as a charlatan. Now, here we see he was a gentle harlot and a need. So, the character is portrayed as a gentle harlot, indicating he is a noble or refined person despite his occupation as a procurer or a hustler. The term need suggests that he is also kind and personable. A better fellow should men not find. So, the speaker claims that one would not find a better companion or friend than this man, emphasizing his amiable qualities and sociability. He will suffer for a quart of wine. Means he is willing to endure or tolerate a situation for the sake of a quart, a unit of measurement of wine. It suggests a carefree and indulgent attitude towards life. A good fellow to have his concubine. He would allow a good fellow or friend to have his concubine for a year, showing his willingness to share and the nature of his relationships. A 12-month and excuse him ought full. So the phrase excuse him all full means that he would fully excuse this arrangement, indicating his acceptance and ease in such matters. And privily a finch eke could he pull. So the term finch refers to a type of bird often using metaphorically to represent a young woman or a potential partner. The character is sly and discreet in pulling off such tricks, and if he fawn over a good fellow, so if he finds another good friend, he is eager to share his knowledge and strategies for seduction or enjoyment. He would teach him to have noon. Oh, he would teach his friend to have no fear or shame in pursuing relationships, suggesting a philosophy of embracing pleasure without guilt. In Switch Cast of the eh, Ancient Ness curse. So this line refers to the curse from the Archidiocon, a church official, as a concern for those engaging in sinful acts such as fornication. But if a man's soul were in his purse, means curses are often disregarded unless money, a man's soul's metaphorically represented in his purse, is involved, indicating a materialistic perspective. For in his purse, he should ye punished be. So he suggests that punishment is warranted if this offense is financial, reinforcing the idea that monetary gain and personal interests govern morality in this context. Purse is the Ancientness hell, said he. So the character humorously asserts that the purse is akin to hell for the Archidion, implying that financial matters can lead to damnation. But well, I would he lied right indeed. So here we see the narrator acknowledges that the man is lying, suggesting skepticism about the character's moral standing and the sincerity of his beliefs. Of cursing ought each guilty man him dread. So this line serves as a warning that every guilty man should indeed fear curses, implying that wrongdoing has consequences. For curse whole sea right as a soiling Sabbath. So the speaker reinforces that curses have the power to kill spirituality, while absolution, forgiveness, saves, presenting the duality of sin and redemption, and also war him of a significavit. So the reference to significavit, a legal term pertaining to a writ or summons, suggests another layer of caution for those engaged in legal or ecclesiastical matters, hinting at the intertwining of moral and legal transgressions. In danger, here he at his own guess. So the phrase in danger suggests that the man had power or control. Danger means power over a certain group. His own dice implies that he could manipulate situations to his favor, especially regarding young women, the young girls of the diocese. It specifies that his targets are the young girls of the diocese, indicating that he is engaging with vulnerable individuals within a religious community, highlighting exploitation and abuse of authority, and knew his counsel and was all her read. So he is experienced and knowledgeable about their counsel and advice, implying he is trusted by them. All her read suggests he is their advisor, further implying a manipulative relationship where he holds significant influence over them. A garland had he set upon his head. So the term garland refers to a wreath or garland which might symbolize festivity or celebration. Having it set upon his head suggests he is trying to present himself as someone charming or appealing, perhaps attempting to lure the young girls, as great as it were for an all stake. So this simile compares the size of the garland to that of an ale stake, a pole used in brewing or serving ale, emphasizing the large and possibly exaggerated nature of his adornment. It implies a certain ridiculousness or ostentation, presenting him as silly or foolish in trying to appear grand. A bouclier had he made him of a cake. So a bouclier traditionally refers to a type of shield. However, here it's humorously referred to as being made of cake, suggesting that his defenses or shields for his predatory behavior are weak or superficial. It emphasizes the absurdity of his pretensions, reinforcing his foolishness. Then with this video lecture ends here. Hope this video lecture will help you in your exams. Thank you.